Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Good morning Instagram fam, friends and followers of as-Saafiy, and welcome to another episode of Revert Reflections. Wanted to come and jump on here really quickly this morning to tee up the topic that we'll be transitioning to next week, inshallah ta'ala. So obviously, we've had this overarching theme of back to the basics. And obviously a big part of that, because our faith is a God-centered faith and a Allah-centered faith. We wanted to talk about believing in Allah. We started out talking about who is Allah. And then we started talking about what is faith. And obviously the cornerstone of faith, the crux of faith, is believing in Allah. Believing in Allah has 4 parts to it. And the first part is believing in Allah's existence. And then we spent an extensive amount of time talking about the arguments against, or the counter arguments to the arguments of the deniers of God's existence. This is important because living in a society where we're constantly bombarded with the thoughts of atheism or atheist thought, we need to have an answer. We need to have an idea how these arguments are dissected and how they're responded to so they don't affect our faith. And so we spent a lot of time on that because of its importance. Now I want to transition to another topic, which is, again, related to believing in Allah's existence. And that has some relevance to one of the arguments of the atheists. So yesterday we talked, or the last few days we talked about one of the arguments of the atheists, or arguments of atheism, which is, show me a sign. And we alluded to this argument being unreasonable, being unrealistic, being insincere, being an insincere demand or request. That there, at the heart of the matter is an intention or desire to win the argument, not to really reach truth or a truthful conclusion. So now the question comes, does that mean that there are no signs of Allah's existence and that He is God, or that He is the God worthy of worship and devotion? Are there no signs of this? Do we just have to believe it because that's what people say? The answer to that question, brothers and sisters, is a resounding no. That there are signs. Without signs, anyone could claim to be God, and all of those claims would be equally valid. They would be equal in their validity. And people who are receiving those claims and trying to figure out who God is so they can worship Him would be in justifiable confusion in their efforts to determine who really is worthy, right? And so there has to be signs. There has to be signs and indications that Allah is the real God. He's the genuine God that we should worship, because there's lots of people who are claiming they're gods, lots of people who claim to be worshiping God, and all of their claims are different. Those claims are they're a variety of claims, and the people who call themselves God, or the objects that they point to as being God, or the beings that they point to as being God, are all different. Right? There are myriad claims, right? And so there has to be signs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, has provided a number of signs. Signs of His existence, signs of His infinite wisdom, signs of His compassion, signs of His might and capacity, signs of His right to be worshipped alone. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, brothers and sisters, in the Quran, in different places in the Quran, He tells us, for example, He says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and from His signs. And then He begins to elucidate or to list the signs, again, of His existence, of His wisdom, of His compassion, of His power, His might, and His right to be worshipped. And He says in other places in the Quran, He says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Indeed, in that are signs for people who reflect. And He says in the Quran, in other places, He says, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ. And there is a sign for them in such and such and so and so. And so definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an ample number of signs that He exists, that He is the God that we should be worshiping. And inshallah ta'ala, what we intend to do next week is present some of those signs. Not all of them. We're not going to provide an exhaustive list, but we're going to present some of those signs to show us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not just told us to believe in Him and rely purely on faith, but He's given us every indication that our faith is not in vain, that He is worthy of our faith and worthy of our belief. And we're going to talk about some of those signs, inshallah ta'ala, next week, bi'idhnillah. Just wanted to come in and tee that up. and get you guys prepared to transition and let you know that we're not going to just stay here forever. We're done talking about or answering atheism. And now, inshallah ta'ala, we'll transition to some of the signs that are indicative of Allah's existence, His right to be worshipped, His power, His wisdom, His compassion, and so on. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your houses, bless your spouses, bless your families and children, bless your sources of livelihood and income. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be. May He shower you with His blessings and surround you with His protection. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.